Very good morning, all of you. So today we are going to see about basis path testing. So as you know, there are two different types of testings, a black box testing and a white box testing. A black box testing is a software testing method where the internal structure or the design or the implementation is not known to the tester. Whereas on the other side, white box testing is a software testing method in which the internal structure, the design, and the implementation of the item that is being tested has to be known to the tester. This is the major difference between these two types of testings. So coming to the basis path testing, it is one of the technique of white box testing. As I said, white box testing means the tester has to know the design, implementation, or he has to know the entire logic or the code behind the item that he is being testing. Right. So a design. What is a software design? Why it is important? A software design is nothing but which converts or transforms the user requirements into an understandable form so that a programmer can write a piece of code. So your design should be very simple and it is understandable for everyone, right? So this basis path testing is one type of white box testing where the tester has to know the internal logic behind the code. So while he is testing a test case, he should know how much complex the code is. For that reason, he has to know the logical complexity of any of the code that he is being testing and how many independent parts are there in the particular code. But why do we need to do this basis path testing? So because of this testing or basis path testing, just we are trying to improve the quality of the software. How do we improve the quality of the software? How do we know that we have done it in a correct way or we did not do it in a correct way? Because of the matrices, right? So choosing an appropriate matrix for different attributes which are related to software is very very important. Like because of the choosing of these right matrices only will make you know the difference between a successful project and an failure project. Because of these reasons only we should know different measures that are associated in our with our project and how they will impact to our project. Like whe- uh, there are different steps to perform this basis path testing. The first step is called flow graph notation. You have heard about flow charts. So this is the first time you're hearing about flow graph. So it is almost similar. So we'll go into the details later. The second step is the independent program paths. And third one, we have to derive the test cases. And lastly, we have to show the graph matrices. So let us see how it will work out. Before going to the first step of the basis path testing, I will just introduce you to a term called cyclomatic complexity. The cyclomatic complexity is a quantitative matrix which will let you know the complexity of the program, right? So the less cyclomatic complexity will result in low risk and it is easy to modify and it is easy to understand, whereas it is vice versa for a high complexity. So guys, please understand, cyclomatic complexity is a matrix. It's a quantitative matrix which will indicate the complexity of the program, or like if the programmer has developed the code, how much complexities, how do you know? So with the help of this complexity, there are different types of measures, as you know, size, complexity, or maintainability, performance matrices, etc. So one of the type of the metrics which will let you know the complexity of the code is called as cyclomatic complexity. So why am I discussing this cyclomatic complexity in the flow graph notation? Yeah, I will tell you. So in order to know the cyclomatic complexity, or in order to calculate the cyclomatic complexity, the first and foremost step that you have to do is you have to convert your flow chart into a flow graph. So what you heard is correct. While designing or while writing the code, generally if you are in a lab, so what you will do, if the teacher gives a task to you, first you will analyze the task, and then you will draw the flow chart for it. Then if the flow chart is correct, then you will start to write the code for that one, right? Similarly, if you are trying to calculate the complexity of the program, first you have to convert that flow chart into a flow graph. The flow chart is the same old thing that you know, which consists of a circle and a rhombus for decision, a parallelogram, a rectangular box. Yeah, that is like a flow chart that you always know that, right? So how do you convert this flow chart to a flow graph? So that is your first step. Your first step, called flow graph notation, is nothing but we are going to convert a flow chart to a flow graph. So in flow chart, you see different kinds of symbols, right? Rectangular box, parallelogram, decision box like a rhombus, etc. and the connections. But whereas in flow graph, you will see only a circles and the edges. Circles are called as a nodes, and the arrows that are connecting between them are called as edges or links. So remember the terminology of the flowcharts, guys. So a flow graph will consist of only the nodes and edges. There are also called as two terminologies, additional terminologies called region and predicate node. So I'll explain this region later. First, let me complete the predicate node. Predicate node is just like the decision. In your decision, you will suppose if this is a decision, are you a girl or a boy? If you are a girl, go this side. If you are a boy, go this side, right? So that is a decision. So all the nodes that consist of a decision are called as predicate nodes, right? Coming to the region, the area bounded, the area, this is one area, this is one area. The area bounded by nodes and edges, which also includes the outer spaces, even the outside portion of the graph also is a region. So these are the four basic terms that you have to understand in order to convert a flow chart to a flow graph, right? Hope you understood. So let's see how I am going to connect. So this is the left hand side is the flow chart and the right hand side is the flow graph. So left hand side you can see varied symbols of the flow chart, whereas on the right hand side you are seeing only the nodes, circles and the links or the edges, right? So first, initially you are seeing a rhombus. At 1 you are seeing a rhombus. A rhombus means a decision. So that means decision means there should be two, S or no, either S path or no path, either this way or this way. So similarly, my 1 here, 1 will be having two links. One will be having a link to 11 and one will be having a link to 2. So similarly, one is having a link to 11 and 2. After that, if you can see a rectangular box connected with a decision again. So if you see, it is a sequence. So once a sequence is there, then we can write the two nodes in the same, two numbers in the same node. Why? Because there is no operation has been performed. So after this one, you have to do this one. So it is when it is a sequence, we can go like this. Sequence will be given like this, right? So at 3 again there is a decision box. Either it has to go to 6 or it has to go to 4. So after 3 it will go to 6 or it will go to 4. Fine. If it goes to 4, again here if you observe 4 and 5, it is again a sequence. So sequence will be grouped together, right? So 4 and 5 will be in a same circular node. Coming to the left hand side, 6 is again a predicate node. So that means either it has to go to 7 or it has to go to 8. So let us see. So 6 has to traverse either 7 or 8. But 8 and 9 are joined or merged together to form 9. See, similar thing happened. And then 9 is connected to 10, and also 5 is also connected to 10. So from 9, a link is connected to node 10. Again from 5, a link is connected to node 10. After that, this node 10 is again going back to 1. See this one. So again, here also it represents the same. This node 10 is again retrieving back to 1. So this is the way how you are converting a flow chart to a flow graph. So let us see, in this particular example, let us see what is a node, what is an edge, what is a region, what is a predicate node. So these circular parts are called as nodes. And these links, see this link, these arrow parts, either this way or that way, reverse way or straight way, whatever it is, the links which are connecting the nodes are called as edges, right? Coming to region, see, this is R1. So this is see, this is one region, one closed region. Next R2, this particular part is R2, which is again another region. See this one, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is one region. This is one closed region. But if you have seen the definition, it also includes the outside region. That means you have to count the outside part of the graph also. See, this is the outside part of the graph, right? So this is the, see, from 1 it is going and it is connecting to outside. So this is like your outside part of the graph. So there are 4 regions. Coming to the predicate node, see, this one is a predicate node which has decision. This one is a predicate node which is again having a decision. And again, this one is a predicate node. So there are many predicate nodes. One itself is a predicate node. See, wherever the decision diamond symbol is there, that itself is a predicate node. Okay. So in our example, we are having three predicate nodes. One, here node 1, node 3 and node 6. Clear? Right. So now with this terminology, you understood what is a node, what is a link, what is a region, what is a predicate node. So let me tell you how to calculate this cyclomatic complexity. Guys, see, this cyclomatic complexity is represented by V of G. It is represented by V of G. So we can calculate the cyclomatic complexity in 3 ways. With the help of regions, with the help of nodes and edges, and with the help of predicate nodes. So you can do any of these, either of these ways, but the thing is, whichever method or whichever way you took, your answer should be the same for all the 3 ways, right? So if you do in this, if you apply this formula, if the complexity is 5, and if you apply this formula, your complexity is 3, then your code is wrong, or the calculation that you have done is wrong. You are doing the same calculation for the same piece of code. That means the complexity also should be the same, right? So in whatever way you calculate, either this way or this way or this way, the complexity of the code should be remaining the same. So the first way to calculate the cyclomatic complexity is using regions. So simply, just blindly, how many regions are there, that will be your complexity. So in our example, how many regions are there? Region 1, region 2, region 3 and region 4. So in our example, there are 4 regions. So the complexity of our code, or this particular complexity for this particular flow chart, is 4. As I told you, cyclomatic complexity is a quantitative representation. It is a quantitative matrix to know the complexity of the code. So our particular example code is of complexity 4. And the second way is with the help of using edges and nodes. E represents the edges and N represents the nodes. See in this particular example. So coming to the edges, there are 11 edges. If you see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11. 11 edges are there. There are 11 edges in this particular example. And how many nodes are there? 1, 2. Here see, 2 and 3 will be considered as a single node. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. So there are 9 nodes. So what is our formula? Edges minus nodes plus 2 is our formula. So coming back to that, how many edges are there? 11 edges minus 9 nodes plus 2, which is equal to 4 again. So as I said, whichever procedure or whichever way you follow, the complexity of the same particular logic or particular code will be the same. And the third way is to calculate the complexity with the help of the predicate nodes. So in our example, so there are 3 predicate nodes as we discussed. See this one, 2 and 1 itself is a predicate node. Node 1, node 3 and node 6. So 3 predicate nodes are there. And our formula is 3 predicate nodes plus 1 will be the complexity. So again the complexity is 4. So whatever procedure or whatever way you are, in whatever way you are calculating, the same complexity should be represented for the same piece of code. Right. So after that, so remember this value. So this is the complexity of our code, and the first part of the basis path testing is completed. We have converted the flow chart to a flow graph. Next is to derive the independent program paths. How many independent paths will be there in our piece of code? How many independent paths will be there? How do we know? Like, what is the complexity of your code will be the number of independent paths. That means your starting path, your starting node is 1 and ending node is 11. How many independent paths? Like, independent means which is not like repeatable. Like, to go from 1 to 11, there are 4 independent paths, which is again just blindly your cyclomatic complexity only. So from 1 to 11, there is a direct way here, 1 to 11. Or you can go like 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 and 10 and 1 and again 11. This is one more path. Or 1, 2, 6, 8, 9, 10, 10, 1 again and 11. This is another path. Or you can go in this way. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 9, 10, 1 and 11. So in order to go from 1 to 11, there are 4 different paths. In either of the 4 ways, you can go from the starting node to the ending node. So this is the way how you will derive your independent program paths. The third step is you have to write the test cases for all the independent paths. And let's see, what is this? So I told you the quantitative metrics, right? So generally the metrics will be of these ranges. So as I told you previously, if it is a low matrix, like low cyclomatic complexity, represents that you have done a good code and your code is easily understandable and you have low risk. So that means, so from 1 to 10, it is a well structured, well written code, highly testable, which supports to the tester, and cost and effort is less. Why this cost and effort is less? Because if the cyclomatic complexity is more, you have to correct the code for several times. So that means the cost of the project will be increased, right? So in this particular example, we got the cyclomatic complexity as 4. So 4 means the particular code that is given out by the developer is a very structured code and it is very well written code. Coming to 10 to 20, it is a complex code, like it is testable, but the tester will be facing some consequences, and the cost and effort also will be medium range. Coming to 20 and 40, it is a very complex code. Testability chances are very less, and obviously the cost and effort will be very high. If it is more than 40, there is no use of testing here. Not at all. It is not recommended for the testing. Obviously, if there are number of bugs in your code, or if the complexity is more, it resembles that it is very high cost. Why? Because the complexity is being calculated based upon the independent paths that are present in your code, right? So if you are having more number of independent paths, that means that your complexity is being increased. So when the complexity of the code increases, no one is ready to take this complex code. Nowadays everyone are trying to have like very low and easily understandable and well structured code. So always the complexity of your code should be very low. We have to take down it, right? And the last step of this basis path testing is to convert into graph matrices. So what is a matrix? What is a matrix? You guys already know, right? So a matrix is a kind of representation of a data. You are representing a data, some piece of data in form of rows and columns. Similarly, a graph matrix is a data structure which will be helping this basis path testing. But how? So if I say that if it is a matrix, what will be the size of my matrix? In my example, what will be the size of the matrix? How many rows should I take, or how many columns should I take? So just your matrix size will be equal to the number of nodes that you are having, right? So the number of nodes, if you are having 5 nodes, or if you are having 6 nodes, or in the previous example here we are having 9 nodes. If it is a 9, if the node size is 9, node count is 9, then you have to go for 9 by 9 matrix. That means 9 rows and 9 columns should be there. Clear? Right. So in this particular example, there are 5 nodes, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So we have to take a 5 by 5 matrix. 5 by 5 matrix should be taken. So just if you see a flow graph and graph matrix are almost similar, but this is in a graph circles and links, but this is in a tabular form. That's it. So a graph matrix is nothing more like, almost it is a tabular representation of your flow graph. In order to make the things very clear, we maintain this matrix, right? So each row and column correspond to a definite row. So that means like 1 by 1, 1 by 2, 1 by 3, 1 by 4, 1 by 5. That is the way you are connecting, right? So we have to show the representation of the flow graph in the form of a matrix. So this is the way how you are going to do this basis path testing. So there are 4 steps. First step is to convert the flow chart, the designing part, into a flow graph. Then from the flow graph, you have to convert the complexity of the code. From the complexity of the code, you will get the quantitative numerical measure, like how much complex it is. After that, you have to derive the independent paths, and you have to write the test cases for all the independent paths without leaving any of them. Later on, you have to derive the graph matrix for the associated flow graph, and the size of the matrix will be depending upon your number of the nodes. So this is the way how you will do the basis path testing. Hope you understood it very well. So guys, if any questions, you can ask me. Thank you.